Hey, Fertility Ain't Fair family. It's your host, Britt, and I'm back for another episode of Fertility Ain't Fair. So today I got my big brother in the radio industry to come on. He is known as Big Red of the Big Red Radio Show, 16-year veteran of the industry, Billboard charting Christian hip hop artist, proud husband, proud father of three. He's super dope. But the reason why I asked him to hop on today and chat with us is because a few months ago we started having a text conversation about a totally different subject. And we somehow ended on the road of infertility. And so I opened up a little bit about our journey. He opened up about a good friend of his who was in the same boat dealing with this as well. And so, his biggest thing was like, how do I be a better friend? I want a resource. Like, I'm on the other side, as he put it, right? And so how do I be a better friend? How do I support you guys the best way that I can? And I love that he asked that question and he was honest about things like, his guilt, not wanting to be an unintentional trigger. And so he was just like, I would love to just, know from you or know from the community really about how to be better, how to better support, be a better friend, be a better fill in the blank. And so I appreciated that conversation so much for his honesty and really wanting to, dive in and ask the question and say, I don't have all the answers. I don't know how to address these things in the best way. And so I want help, right? And so I appreciated him for that. So I said, you know what? Let's actually talk this through on the podcast. So we welcome Big Red of the Big Red Radio Show on Fertility Ain't Fair. So let's go ahead and get on into it. All right, so I got my radio brother, Big Red from the Big Red Radio Show. What up, Red?
What's going on? How are you doing?
Man, I can't complain. For real. I just feel honored to have you on my show because you are clearly the veteran on the airwaves. So for you to be on my, little podcast is very, very exciting for me.
Man, listen, it's not little. First of all, this is big. This is big, and it's you are super serving a community in a very important way. So I'm honored to be in this seat. You didn't have to invite me, so I'm honored to be here on this big podcast.
Well, you know what? I receive. Okay, I won't say a word about it. Let me shut up. I receive, so I thank you for that. So we'll just go ahead. I gave the accolades, the Billboard charting, the 16 years, the beautiful family, amazing wife, super dad. I mean, you have reincarnated yourself into a million different things probably in this life. And so we'll just kick off how I kick off every show is by asking you how you define yourself. What are the words or phrases to describe who you are?
Wow, that's a great question. How do you describe yourself? I think I am a critical thinker. I'm a curious learner. I love to learn things. I'm an avid reader. I love to read, and that's part of that curiosity. I always want to learn something new every single day. Um, I'm a man of faith, and I'm big on legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Legacy is like my word right now. That's my
Mm-hmm.
focus is the future and what will be here. What will I leave for when I'm not here? And how much weight will that have? So,
Mm,
like what I'm doing right now, how much weight will it hold when I'm no longer on the earth? That's what I'm
mm.
working on right now.
Let's talk about it. Okay. I love that. And you said you learn something new every day. That's the goal. So was there anything today, out of curiosity, that you learned new?
Today, man, listen, today has been all right. So the last couple of days is back to school time here in my
Okay.
house. So, I have a fourth grader, a second grader, and a preschooler.
Mm,
So for the last, 18 plus months, everybody has pretty much been in the house,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So that in the middle of that, I launched the Big Red Radio Show.
Mhm.
So I've had to work, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more later, but I've had to work in a very unique way. It was a lot of juggling,
Mhm.
and today I literally had to like study, read some articles on focus and
Mm.
on like reacclimating myself to having a lot of time again. It's like
Yeah.
I think I dreamt of it for so long. Like, man, when I have more time to myself, I'm gonna do A, B, and C. I'm gonna
Mhm.
get this done, that done, that done. And then when you get the time, you it's like, whoa, I have to learn how to combat distractions again.
Mhm.
Because you can get comfortable even in having a lot of time. It's like, oh well, I got time, so I'll do this. But that's really not, again, going back to that legacy, that's not really going to help me reach the goals that I have right now.
Right.
So today, I had to relearn or reacclimate myself to being hyper focused and still having that like tenacity to train myself on my free time.
So, well, let's just go there for a second. So, because I didn't even, really think to go there, but talking about, parenting, fatherhood, etc. during the pandemic. So, I mean, it's a lot, of course, that could be a whole different show. But how would you describe in a few words or sentences or whatever how it was to parent during a pandemic?
2 words: my God.
Period.
My God, my lamb from Zion. Listen, it was challenging, to say the very least.
Hmm.
That's a whole nother. This could be a whole nother topic,
Yeah. Yeah.
but succinctly, I would say it was very challenging because, number one, so I'm married. My wife and
Hmm.
I are close to celebrating 13 years. That's my
Yes.
college sweetheart, my boo thing.
Yes. Yes.
Dr. Tisha Felder, that's my boo. What up, boo?
Yes,
Um,
boo.
so we have 3 beautiful kids, but we started out, obviously, when everything shut down, everything was virtual. So we
Hmm.
had 2 kids doing virtual school, and we had a baby.
Right.
So baby needs all the attention,
Hmm.
and then 2 kids who are learning in a way they've never learned before, you know, eyes fixated on a computer screen, for half of the day,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and they need a lot of hands-on,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
then mommy and daddy still have to work. So my wife
Yep.
is a she's now a tenured professor, associate professor, and so she was working on that. She was going up for tenure during the
Yeah.
pandemic.
Heavy on the tenure. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So my wife's going up for tenure. We've got a baby and 2 kids virtual learning, and dad is launching a syndicated radio show. What I mean, who would
Ooh.
on themselves? We definitely wouldn't put that on ourselves. But so it was challenging, but we
Hmm.
learned a lot about ourselves, you know. You know, yeah, it was
Yeah.
challenging. But
Yeah.
but we made it through. It was bumpy at times.
Right. Of
It
course.
got bumpy.
Yeah.
Because you're around each other more than you ever have
I
been
mean,
around each other.
all
It's
all
like,
the
I
time.
love you. Yeah, that's my boo. That's my girl. That's my, yeah, but you ain't never been around each other 24 hours a day, though.
Never. Never.
How much do
Yeah.
you like? You love me, but do you like me?
Do you
That's
like
that's
me?
what I
Do you
need to
like me
know.
enough to quarantine with me
You're right.
voluntarily?
Come
Like,
on. Come
with three
on. That
kids at
part.
that?
How I know you love me. How much do you like me
Right.
right now?
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, we had our moments. Like, I don't
Sure.
really like you right now.
Yeah, so quarantining was crazy. Parenting during the pandemic, obviously crazy, but prayerfully, we're on hopefully the back end of this, like coming into a different phase, I guess you could say. So we just gonna all, pray on it and keep moving. Because I don't know what else to do at this point. It's like 2020, 2.0.
Right.
So beautiful family, is a dad of three, amazing wife. So talking about fatherhood, like what examples of fatherhood did you have growing up? And when did you know I definitely want to be a dad?
Man, you got great questions. So
I'm trying.
no, man, no, this is good. You're asking me questions I've never answered in an interview before. So
Okay.
this is exclusive, exclusive. All right.
I love it.
Fatherhood. My dad was he's still living, but in my childhood, my dad was there, you know,
Mhm.
very he exposed me to the finer things of life, if I can say it that way.
Mhm.
He showed me. My dad was a banker. Okay, so
Okay.
so he was a bank executive. He was in small business loans, and
Mhm.
then he was a vice president at a huge bank, and then he was a bank president, and he's
Mm.
been a CEO of a bank. So it's a different life.
Mhm. Mhm.
We lived in a gated community on the
Ooh.
golf course,
Ooh.
nice vacations. Like my some of my young memories, I like my Saturdays. I would eat my little cereal, watch my little cartoons and everything, and then I would go with my dad to the bank and sit in the
Mhm.
conference room while and watch more TV while he caught up on work from the week.
Mhm.
So, little did I know as a young person that, like, man, your dad's a bank president. I'm just like, I'm going to work with dad.
Right.
But, that was some of our bonding time. My dad would take me to deep sea fishing. Had my first deep sea fishing experience with my dad. Hop down to Atlanta, go to the Braves games.
Mm.
Wild Dunes, Kiowa, Litchfield Beach. All of these nice places, and I think, and what that put in me was, once you've tasted those things,
Mhm.
it's
Right.
tough to experience life in really almost any other way. It's just
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
you're in radio, you're in
Mhm.
media. Once you get those great seats to a concert, or once you get that VIP, you backstage passes, and you front row, and you all of that meet and greet, it's tough to
Right.
sit anywhere else. So the same
Very
thing
true.
with what my father, exposed me to. He showed me. I remember him working late at night to get things
Mhm.
done. My dad was a
Mhm.
hard worker. Um, he you never heard excuses. It
Mhm.
was, I'm gonna do this, and that it's for the family.
Mhm.
That it's for provision to be there. And so those were some very really critical images that I don't think I understood as a younger person, but that had, major impression on me.
Mhm.
So, I saw I saw hard work, I saw provision, and I saw, creating memories, not just piling up a bunch of money and sitting on it, but using it to create memories, with your family.
Yeah.
And those are things that I wanted to, take on and do in my family. I also had, so my dad he's real technical, right? So when you're a
Mhm.
banker, it's about the numbers.
Mhm.
I want to shout out here. I have a uncle, my uncle Jackie. I don't even think he knows this, but he was a photographer for one of the huge zoos here on the East Coast, Riverbank Zoo.
Mhm.
And so his images will be in these magazines, and I was like, man, Uncle Jackie is so cool. And so, like, I got the creative side from, like, my
Mhm.
Uncle Jackie, and he made me always want to carry a camera around and capture images. And that, honestly, that was the first business that I launched, was a photography business, but that was
Mm.
from the second fatherhood of my Uncle Jackie. So, I think it just speaks to the importance of having those male roles being present and active in your lives, that can create some really impressionable, um, or create some great impressions into your soul, into the man that you evolve into.
Yeah, absolutely. And so at what point in time did you know that you wanted to be a dad?
Um, I guess I think I knew in college that I wanted to be married,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think that I knew that I wanted to be a dad until probably a couple of years out of college, you know? Um, well, maybe 4 or 5 years out of college. Right out of college, I felt like a fish out of water. I felt like I really didn't even feel like I was worthy to even step to a female
Mm.
in a serious way. Cause I'm like, I don't have my stuff together. I don't have no
Right.
money. I can't even buy you a ring. Like I don't have no place. I got this pad, this bachelor pad I'm renting here. Like I don't have anything to bring you into. And so I was working real hard for that for a while. So I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
feel like I was ready to even be married, much less be somebody's dad. But once I my through the counsel of my pastor, to be honest, Bishop Herbert Bailey
Mm-hmm.
in Columbia, South Carolina, he really helped me. He is a father to me as well. So he's like my spiritual father. He helped me to redefine some wrong thinking that I had about being prepared for a relationship, a long-term relationship. I in my mind, I don't know where I got this from, TV or something. I was like, man, I gotta have, $20,000 in the bank, and I need to have my own house, and I want to
Right.
buy her a, 1.5 carat ring, and like that's what stepping to somebody properly looks like.
Right.
But he helped me. It's like, where'd you get that from, son? Like, who told you that? No, no, no. And it was through his counsel that I you know approached the woman who became my wife, and then once we got together, I was like, yeah, I want to build a family with her,
Right.
you know. But
Yeah.
again, it was the influence of another man, of another father.
So you're really fortunate to have a lot of good fathers and father figures like in your circle growing up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this. Is there for you an expectation or a sense of responsibility that you feel to go above and beyond as a Black father due to, of course, what we already know culturally or national stats or the negative image of Black fatherhood? Like, do you feel a personal obligation to, I don't know, just go above and beyond because of all those things?
I'll be honest, I don't think it's not something that I think about on a day-to-day basis.
Hmm.
Like I gotta put on and I gotta do this because I'm a black man, or you
Hmm.
gotta do this because you're a black man. I wouldn't say that's my focus,
Hmm.
but it doesn't mean that I'm not hyper aware of it and that I don't have very intense conversations with my son, with my black
Hmm.
son,
Hmm.
about the reality of our country and of our world, and that the expectations are going to be different from me. So it's there, and I know that I push from that place.
Hmm.
Um, I do push from there, but it may even sound like a oxymoron to be like, it's not a goal, but it is there, and I still
Yeah.
have to speak to it.
Hmm.
When we go places, I find myself like, all right, now you got to do A, B, and C. Now some of
Hmm.
it is just parenting, but I know the majority of it is you're a black man.
Hmm.
You can't do that. You
Hmm.
know, you're a black man. You can't talk like that. You can't when we're talking about people who are in authority. I have big conversations with my son on authority and respecting authority so that my son is not a statistic.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, so I have to parent from that. I do have to parent, from that place.
Right.
But I think I'm more focused on being excellent than I am like I gotta be the best black man I can be. I want to be the best man I can be,
Hmm.
and in doing that, you're gonna see that's a dope black man.
That
You
was
know,
very Obama of you. I appreciate what you just said. It gave me Obama, like in the best possible way. Like I'm not the black president. I'm a great president. I'm qualified, but you will see a dope black man at the end of the day.
I'll be and honestly, I've never had to articulate that before, and I feel like I was walking on a tightrope even saying it because
No.
I know that on one side of that, it could sound like you are putting your culture down or that you don't care about your culture, and it's not that. It
No.
ain't. It's not
Mm-mm.
that at all. I'm
Right.
very aware of my blackness
Right.
every single day, of my
Yep.
light skinned blackness. Every single day. Like, you want to
Yeah.
talk about identity
Mm-hmm.
and trying to figure out who you are and how you relate to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, you know, come
Right.
on. A light skinned black man, we don't want to talk about the colorism conversation.
Ooh, that's
That's
a
a whole
whole
nother
different
conversation,
conversation.
you
Oh my
know.
goodness.
So
Yeah.
having to, even trying to fit in as a black man within Black America,
Okay,
but
come on. Come
I
on.
still am proud to be black, and
Yeah.
I embrace it, and I do parent from there,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
that my son is not blindsided, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't properly prepare him, and my
Yep.
daughters too, but
Yeah.
particularly my black son, since that's
Absolutely.
the image we continue to see so much
Mm-hmm.
in mainstream media. The confrontation is with people who look like my son. So
Right.
it's my duty to prepare him with those conversations.
Yeah, we just go ahead and we're gonna schedule a part two because I just feel like, like we could go down a lot of different paths, but also why I really enjoy talking to you. And I'm glad that I have you in my friend circle because I enjoy these conversations. So back to fatherhood. So if you had to sum up what being a dad means to you, what would you say?
Oh man, it's I don't want to sound cheesy and saying it's everything, but it's close to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Bible says that a good name is to be desired above riches, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I'm going to pursue excellence. I'm going to pursue greatness. I'm going to pursue maximizing every opportunity that God allows. And yes, I want to make a lot of money and all of that great stuff. I want to enjoy the finer
Mm-hmm.
things in life. But my name, the name that is attached to my wife, who I asked to come into my life and take my last name on, the name
Mm-hmm.
that's behind my son and my daughters, you know, that that's huge. That's huge to me. So fatherhood is attached to that, like to that legacy. Every
Mm-hmm.
decision, it's gonna sound like I'm reaching here, but a lot of the decisions that I make on a day-to-day basis impact fatherhood. So like if I don't maximize my time,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's not in the house during the day. Dad's got the whole house to himself. Dad can do whatever he wants to do. You have choices to make.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, do I remain faithful to my wife? What do I use with my freedom? Do I use it to slide in DMs? Do I use it to bring somebody over who's not my spouse? Do I use it to
Mm-hmm.
step out? Uh, what do I do with my time when I have my kids here? Am I on my phone the whole time? Am I
Mm-hmm.
constantly pushing them away from me, saying, "Hey, later, later, can you play with me?" Well, later, we'll play later. We'll do that later, 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 later.
Right.
All of those things are defining me as a father, and it's coming down to what's my name worth. It's like, what do my kids think of me when if you were to interview my kids
Mm-hmm.
25 years from now, it's like, what would they say? What are the images they have when you say the
Mm-hmm.
word
Mm-hmm.
fatherhood?
Mm-hmm.
I'm defining that right now, and that is everything to me.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. I appreciate you for putting that together because it makes a lot of sense. And I feel like it goes right back to what you said earlier in terms of legacy, because I feel like that is a big part of, you as a man, but also you as a dad, as you mentioned. So, all right, so we'll shift gears a little bit. So, talking about support for friends and loved ones dealing with infertility or fertility challenges. So, who was the first person that you remember coming in contact with or that shared with you they were going through some kind of infertility journey? Who was that person? Even not by name, you can just kind of describe like who they were and when it happened.
So I'm sure that there were others, and I'm sure that there were others, but I wasn't as aware,
Mhm.
as I may have liked to been to understand it fully. But the one that stands out to me was a dear woman of God who, even now, my wife considers to be almost like a second mom. Um, I don't want to give too much away because too much of the
Yeah.
journey
Yeah.
is not public,
Sure.
but but I would just say it is somebody who is very close to both of us for almost 20 years now,
Mhm. Mhm.
and one of the most amazing women you would ever meet. Like, the respect level that I have for her as a woman after
Mhm.
God's heart, as a person of integrity, as a loving person, a giving person. I'm talking about will give you the shirt off her back, will create opportunities for you if she can, and and I learned, I guess, probably later down the line
Mhm.
about her. I guess as our relationship got closer, I learned, like, man, they're going through infertility challenges, and because it came in the form of, hey, let's lift them up in prayer. They believe in
Mhm.
God for kids, so
Mhm.
it's just like, okay, cool, 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 yeah, all right, we
Right.
gonna
Right.
believe God. They gonna get these kids,
Right.
and then then the letdown
Mhm.
and the emotions, and at the risk of saying things that may be insensitive, but we'll just say, they experience loss,
Mhm.
so like the
Mhm.
joys of conception and then loss and just that roller coaster,
Yeah.
and going deciding, okay, how far are we going to take this, how much are we going to invest in this,
Mhm.
and being close to that journey. That it was tough as a friend
Mhm.
to see it, because it's
Yeah.
one thing when somebody says, hey, pray for me, and I'm like, okay, bet, I'm gonna pray for you. But like, what happens when those prayers don't get answered? It's not
Right.
the prayer, it's not the answer that everybody is expecting. Do
Right.
you
Or one
still
thing.
continue to
Mhm.
believe? It's
Right.
like, what do you do? What do you say? How do you nurture that friendship? How do you let them know, like, I'm here for you, without sounding like, what can you say? What can you really say to somebody
Right.
who's going through that? And that's
Yeah.
where this conversation,
Yes, that's where we
with you
came
and I
from.
came, it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't feel like a good friend. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm, as many words as I use, you see, I love to talk. I talk for a living. But when it
Right.
comes to this area, I feel like I'm at a loss for words. So
Mhm.
I saw it up close. And then another dear friend of ours going through the same thing. So, we had two close friends
Mhm.
going through challenges with infertility, and seeing the highs and the lows, the highs, the lows, and it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. And when we talked that day, we you mentioned feeling a sense of guilt sometimes.
Yeah.
In terms of having three wonderful children and not wanting to make that person feel sad or be a trigger. And I just thought that was a really just a moment of transparency that I had not even really considered, as you mentioned, like from the other side of things. But I was glad that you were honest about it, and that
Yeah.
you were honest about, like, I don't know how best to go about this. I don't know what the right things are to say, what to say, what not to say. And like you was like, I just, I want somebody to tell me, I
Yeah.
need a resource, right? I can't, and I think people also feel like, to empathize or to support someone, you have to put yourself in their shoes, but you can't always do that. I
Right.
mean, it's literally not possible if you have not gone through it, but there is a way to support, right? Like, and be there in the right way. So that's why we're here. So a couple things. And so I did this post about a month probably after we talked to Fertility and Fair on IG. So check it out. But I have a couple don'ts. So we'll go over those real quick.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
So
you. Let me get my notebook
get
out.
your
Hold
notepad
on.
out, y'all. Get your notes out. Okay. And tell a
Yes.
friend, share a friend.
Yes.
So
Yes.
here are a few, and right, you can always add more to the list, everybody. But here are a couple that stood out to me as kind of core don'ts. So how not to support a friend in their journey. So number one, stop asking people when they have kids. Right,
Mm.
like we did a whole episode called "Get Out My Uterus" a few back, and that was the whole point. Like let's normalize not asking people when they're starting a family or when you have another child. Stop asking those questions, right? And they're very simple questions, and most of the time I give people the benefit of like, you don't mean harm, right? Like I give you that grace that you don't really mean any harm by it, but that could be an easy trigger to asking someone, when you're starting a family, when you having more kids, because you have no idea what's happening. And if they've been trying for however long to get to that point and you have no idea, you ask that question, you might just put them back emotionally, months,
Wow.
a year, right? Because they could just had a loss. They could have just had a miscarriage. You have no idea. So let's normalize stopping that question. Just don't ask. Just stop yourself. Close your mouth. Just don't do it. Um Another one is like, don't take it personal if they are not present at an event that is kid focused or kid friendly. So, sometimes we have to just say no, right? Like we can't, some days you can't go to that birthday party. This happened to me actually 2 weekends ago. I did go, but it was for one of our nieces. She was turning 2. Love her to pieces. It was my husband's great niece, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I really had to, that morning, I had to put myself in a mindset to go.
Wow.
And it wasn't because I didn't want to be there, and I hadn't been down to see my husband's family in a little while, and all the kids, nieces and nephews, cousins. It's always lots of kids and babies down there. I enjoy going, but that morning I had to uh, take a breath. I had to pray specifically over that day and the hours I was going to be there to just ensure myself that it was going to be a good day. And it turned out to be a great day. It really, really did. I thank God that night. I journaled about it when I got home. It was a great day. But like I had to get myself in the mindset and allow myself to be faithful that it was going to be a good day and that I wasn't going to be triggered and that, I was going to focus on this beautiful little baby turning 2 and being healthy and happy. And that was my focus. And I couldn't allow anything else to cloud that focus. But there are times when you feel like, should I go today?
Mm.
Like, can I go? Like, can I mentally go? I can physically go, yes. But like, can I mentally go to this event and be okay? Or if I get there, I'm not okay, and I have to leave, don't judge me for that, right?
Right. Right.
Don't be like, hey girl, what happened? No, no. So I think part of that is on us to set those expectations, right? So if you're like, hey, Britt, come to the kids' birthday party, cool. Hey, I'm gonna come, but if I happen to step out, I'm letting you know in advance, like I'm good, but I just gotta go and I gotta go. And you were like, probably
Mm.
like, cool. But like some people are like, but how could you leave? We're all having
Mm.
a good time. How dare you leave
Wow.
your godchild's birthday? What?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's a big one.
Wow.
The next one is don't give unsolicited advice. People love giving advice, and sometimes it crosses the line into like TMI because
Mm.
people joke about like, what y'all doing in the bedroom? What?
Yeah,
What were we talking about?
like how'd you get here?
How'd
Like
you jump in my
I didn't
bedroom?
invite you. I didn't invite you here.
You weren't invited. There was no I need help sign on the door. Like, what? And
Wow.
so that's, we joke about it, but it's very true. Like, family oversteps a lot when it comes to that. They joke about it, like, oh, your daddy had problems. Wait, what? What?
Mm.
Like, ha ha ha, but also like not okay. And I think support and advice are very different. And so, the advice side is like, hey, infertility is a medical issue. Unless you have a matching medical issue to go along with my story, like, I
Right.
don't need the advice from non-doctors about what's happening in my body, his body, in our
Right.
bedroom.
Right.
Like, it's
Yeah.
it's medical, like, so that's what that is.
Can I
Um
can I can I hop in for a second?
please, please.
Since this is the transparency podcast
Yes.
here, I'm gonna put
Yes.
myself out here to help friends like
Come
me,
on.
who
Yes.
on the other side.
Yes.
I have been guilty of of several of the don'ts. Um and of course we mean well because that's your
Yes.
friend, that's your homie, right? You
Absolutely.
want them to have what they want, and you want them to have what you want for them, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh man, y'all are dope, y'all are an amazing couple.
Yeah.
I want you to be somebody's mom. You're gonna be a great dad. Y'all deserve to
Mm.
have kids, right?
Mhm.
So we want
Mhm.
it, but then I have found myself, and this is just immaturity to and not understanding your side of it. I've been that person that has heard about somebody's infertility and not, or I shouldn't say what it was not. I've said, oh well, man, all you got to do is you know like, man, do y'all use, I'm serious, I'm be honest with you, like
Yeah, no,
I was
I
like,
appreciate
oh
it.
yeah, what, well,
Yeah.
hey, there's this app, man, you can do
Yes.
this thing and the
Right.
calendar and the all you got to do. And it's like, oh, and I'm sure they probably on the other end thinking, Sherlock, if it was that easy, we
That's
we
it.
wouldn't we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But in our
Right.
mind, we like, oh, it ain't that bad. It's easy.
Yeah,
All you
it's
got to do
easy.
is all you got to
Fill in the
do
blanks.
is, and it's like, no, it's not. It's way deeper than that. So
Yeah.
I've been there and I've made this mistake. So thank you. I receive it. I'm gonna be a better friend as a result of this conversation. So thank you. My
Listen,
toes, yeah, they good.
the
You know.
fact that you even recognized it, was a big deal for me. And I know that you're a good person and a good friend, and that you definitely mean well. So, you recognize it though. I think a lot of times people don't recognize it and they don't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
And that's where, the communication breakdown happens. And so a lot of times I think we just let it go, right? We either laugh it off, or we walk away from it, or we
Mm,
leave the conversation or the event, and we kind of just internalize it on our own versus holding people accountable. And that was kind of my message in that episode, talking about one of my most recent experiences that happening with a family event. And it was like, my husband was like, "You want me to say something to them?" Because it was his
mm,
cousins. And I was like, "No, no, it's fine. It already happened. It passed. I've moved on." And then I was like, "No, yes, I do want you to say something,
mm.
because the holding people accountable is important, and not in a nasty way, but in a, hey, I want you to stop and think about it way. I
Yeah.
want you to stop before you say it to someone else who maybe is not able in that moment to handle it the same way I did.
Right. Right.
You don't want to ruin a relationship or an event or whatever, but at the end of the day, and this is with anything, of course, right? If people aren't called out on things, they think it's okay, and we take these kind of like social norms and we just roll with them. And there are some things that need to be corrected, and this is one of them.
Amen.
Last two, don't make assumptions about anyone else's family planning. That kind of
Mm,
goes into asking or starting, when you having a family, because that right there is an assumption that we haven't already started trying,
yeah.
and that we haven't gone through loss, whatever form that may be, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental loss. And the last one was, don't let kid talk dominate every conversation, right? Like, I think a lot of times, I mean, kids are paramount, and when you have them and when you're in that life, it's part of your everyday life, so it's hard not to talk about your kids. But I think the point here is every conversation
Yeah.
doesn't have to be dominated. Not saying you can't mention your kids, right? But dominated by kid talk and what they have going on, and just being aware that that could also be a trigger. And I think I told you, it's not that I don't want to celebrate your happiness and your kids, and I want to do all those things. My good friends and family, I really do. But it can't be the only thing that we talk about.
So let
Like,
me ask you this.
yeah,
Pardon me.
yeah.
So let me ask you this. When we're talking about the don'ts here, are we
Hmm.
talking about in the context of a friend who knows that you're going through infertility
Hmm.
challenges?
That's a good question. So I think some of these are regardless. I think the asking about people's family planning is like should be a universal rule.
Right.
I really do.
Like
I just, because you just
let's
never
normalize, let's make this
know.
global, right? This
Yeah,
is
like you just really never know. And like,
yeah,
I think things like, miscarriages are so common.
yeah,
For example, infertility is more common than it's not. And so, I had to also learn that more and more. And the more people that I connect with, like, I'm like, wow, like, we had no idea. Friends that have been friends for years, or couples we've known for years, and we had no idea they had gone through years or loss, or etc. So, like, I just feel like it's more common than not. And so, in order to kind of just have like a different social norm, we should not be asking about, even when you get married, right? Like, when you get married,
right,
when you having kids, you have a kid, when you have another kid, like, stop.
right. Yeah,
So
you're
I think
right.
that's universal. But
Yeah,
the other ones, I think, oh, also giving advice, I think those two for me are like, everybody has to cut it out.
yeah,
Because it's an imposition, no matter if you're going through infertility or not, to kind of like to jump in someone's bedroom and like get them advice on like what they should be doing is weird. So
right,
those two. The other ones, I think they should be thought about before someone speaks on it. But I also agree that we can't always fault people for doing these other things if they don't know something about our journey.
right,
So, you know, it would be crazy of me, or selfish of me, really, to say, to someone, or get mad at someone for doing these other things when they absolutely have no idea. So if I did leave a family gathering and somebody was like, what's all that about? Or, or texting me like, what's going on? You all right? Like, you don't want to be here? Like, I couldn't get mad at that, because you have no idea why I left.
yeah,
Granted, you don't have to know every detail, but it would obviously help communication and relationships if you knew, like, you know what, before I even say anything, I know she's going through X, Y, and Z already, so I'm not going to press it.
right.
So
Yeah,
I do think that there are some universal, and then some things that we have to be very careful about how we allow our emotions to control us in these situations if someone has absolutely no idea.
that's very good.
So,
I
that's
like
on
that.
us to decide if you want them to be in your circle or not. And if not, then how do you change your reactions when certain things happen, because they just don't know. And so it's not their fault per se. I mean, they could always be smarter about, choice of words, but that's life. So
Yeah, yeah.
that could be with anything. So yeah, that's a good
Can
question.
I if I could, if
Please.
I'm not about to make a list at all, and but I will just say on our side, well, over here on the west side, on the east side, west side, pick your side. On this side, I will say with that number five that you gave was
Mm-hmm.
very eye opening for me. And that's why I asked that question,
Mm-hmm.
about not letting the kid talk,
Yeah.
dominate every conversation. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think, I have some friends, I have young kids, right? So they're
Mm-hmm.
just kind of getting their feet wet in terms of expressing themselves a certain way, but I've got some other of my best friends, their
Mm-hmm.
kids are in their thing, they're doing it, right? And I could just imagine, if my kid, like one of my best friends, his kid is like a basketball phenom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He was,
Yeah.
and I would imagine that would probably dominate my conversation. Like if my
Mm-hmm.
kid is
Mm-hmm.
killing it, like that's gonna be part of my conversation. It's like,
Sure.
yo, he's killing it, man, and we're really proud of him. Or
Yeah.
like my daughter is
Yeah.
in gymnastics, like, yo, she's doing her thing. But I will say this, if that, that's something I definitely should, can work on and should be cognizant of, especially in a relationship where your friend is going through these challenges.
Mm-hmm.
But I will also say it could help for the people who are going through the challenges
Mm-hmm.
to give us little feeders, if you will,
Yeah.
to let us know like it's okay to talk about the kids,
Sure.
So I might not initiate it in a conversation,
Right.
but if you say, hey, how are the kids doing? Then I know you're giving me
Right. It's
an
okay.
invitation,
Yeah.
like, yo,
Yeah.
today is cool. Like it's cool. And
Yeah.
I have to give you that respect. Like I wonder if that's even something you should consider, period, is to wait for me. I don't know if that's a do. It's almost like, do you wait for the invitation to talk about your
Right.
kids? Like I don't know if that's too far to go, but I think it shows sensitivity to your
I
friend.
agree.
Like because you
Yeah.
might be having a rough day, somebody else might have triggered you, you might have just woke up and it's just not a good
Right.
emotional day, and then I got the kids in the background and I'm like, oh man, my baby girl is so cute. Oh, she's so precious. I just these little cheeks and that, and then you are going through over there because I'm going through just telling everything all about my kids. I haven't given you, or you haven't really given me that invite
Right.
to share that part of our lives. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it does make sense. And I think
So
I agree. I think in some cases, and I do that. I was like, well, how the girls, or friends of mine. Most of my friends are like girls now. I'm thinking about it. How are the girls doing? I'm always gonna ask. I'm usually gonna ask. And so they feel comfortable, talking about it. Because as you mentioned, I asked you, or if I FaceTime you guys, I'm like, let me see those babies. You know what I mean?
right,
I do that a lot
right,
too. So they're like, okay, cool. I think that the key word was dominate. So I think,
yeah,
like we have more things to talk about, right? Like it's like, I think that's the key thing is like we definitely, and once again, not speaking for everyone, because like you said, some days are harder than others. But that's also up to me to know, okay, who am I interacting with today and how, right? Maybe
right,
I'll just text you.
yeah,
So I can kind of control the conversation and, ask certain things or, holler at you about something specific. So it's kind of on me as well to, kind of just gauge my day and my emotions that morning and just kind of say, one, do I want to be on social media today or not? Maybe not. Do
yeah,
I want to reach out to someone else today or not? Maybe not. I've had those days where I have, I won't say intentionally, but like I have been like, you know what, today I want to reach out to so and so, but like maybe today isn't the best day because I'll call her tomorrow. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
maybe I'm just not in this space to, as you mentioned, hear about her whole life today. And that's not fair to her. Like, it's not fair for me to call her today when I'm not in a good space and not want to talk about her whole life. Because the last thing I want to do is have someone who I care about, friend, family, or other, not be able to share their whole life with me.
right. That's
And
good.
so it's like, how am I going to show up for them today? Because maybe they're having a rough day with kids or whatever, and they do need to talk. And, I still want to be there. I don't want
Right.
to not be your friend because of this, or I don't want to not be your whole friend because of this, right? So I think it's just, doing our best to decide where to show up, on certain days based on our emotions that day.
That's
So,
very good. Thank you for sharing that. That
hey, thank you for sharing. Uh, so so let's jump into some what the do's, right? So what would we like to see when we have someone who's in our corner to support us? So definitely ask how someone wants to be supported, and how best to approach the journey. I think, like I said, if you're already aware of someone's journey, maybe you know a little bit, maybe you know a lot. But if you've never asked them, how do you want me to support you? Because everyone's different, right? It could be like, hey, just if I reach out to you, be there. Or, if I tell you that something happened, just I need you to, show up this way. But I think it's important in a lot of relationships to ask those questions. Like when bad things happen, how do you want me to show up for you?
yeah, that's good.
Like, because like I said, everyone's different and everyone deals things differently. Sometimes you don't want to be talked to that day. Sometimes you don't want to talk about it at all. I might call and say, hey, I don't want to talk about any treatment stuff today. So how you doing? Like, like I don't even want to, not today. Don't ask me about it. I love you. Don't ask me about it today.
Yeah.
Like, so I think respecting, the best way for that individual. The next one kind of goes with the whole, if someone leaves an event, like be cool with it, like understand it's their choice, right? To be present at events or not. So to like apply that no judgment rule, like don't press them about it, don't keep asking them about it. If they told you, hey, I can't make it, that's it.
Right.
Like I can't make it. You know what I mean? I'll send a gift. I'll send something. I'll send money. I might swing by next week, but like I cannot come to that party this Saturday. Reason or not, like I just like you should respect their choice to not be present, and just don't judge, and don't make it about you, right?
Right.
Um, Support their choices. We already kind of mentioned that. Be cautious about sharing stories of others' success. So it kind of goes back to the other one, don't ask about or don't give like unsolicited advice, right? In the same token, like people always want to say, well, I know so and so, they were having trouble too. They went on a cruise, and then next thing you know, they were pregnant. Like,
Mm,
thank you. That's also not a medical reason, but thank you. And the big one is like, just relax. You're probably just stressed.
mm.
I probably am stressed. However, the just relax method expired 2 years ago. So, yes, I will continue to try to relax and not be stressed, but I'm also going through active treatment. So, that you may or may not be aware of. So, please, I had at that family event, somebody was like, yeah, it was the same scenario. I was like about to leave, and like we were standing by the door, and she was like, yeah, so about y'all starting a family. I'm like, yep, it's been the plans for a long time, period. And
Mm,
then she was like, yeah, but I was like, it's taking a little bit longer. She kind of got the hint. I thought I was gonna just leave it there, but she kept pressing, and she was like,
right.
"Yeah, I know somebody else who was having trouble, and they just it was something, I can't remember what it was. It was something generic, and next thing you know, they had like 3 kids, and I was like, that's wonderful. That is not my journey, but
Right.
it's probably gonna
Man,
be a trigger. It's not gonna
this is
help.
so good. This is so good. Because I'm telling you, man, like people and I am people. Okay. So
I am people.
I am people. We think it's so simple. Like we really think we, we think it's as simple as you saying, man, I got a headache. Oh man, you just need, let me give you a home remedy. Oh man,
Right.
like, well, first thing is, oh, that's easy. Go, all you gotta do is go take some Tylenol. All right.
Right.
Like, no,
Right.
I have headaches all the time. Oh, here's okay. So here's what you really need to do then. You need to go get you
Right.
a purple onion, and then you need to like massage your temples with some honey,
Right.
and
And
then
lay
put some,
down.
yeah, and then you got to close it. Now you got to put the cucumbers on your eyelids at 7 o'clock. If somebody got some home remedy for this thing. So we're used to having a response for life's ailments, and health
Definitely.
issues. It's like, oh, I got acid
That's a good
reflux. Oh, you
point.
need to get some. All you need is some. We always got an answer
Yeah.
for all the other ailments that life throws at us. So we think all you got to do is, and we, again, we the people, we mean well, but
Yeah.
it's so much more complex. And that's why your don't, I don't want to harp on the don't, but the don't was so important, like normalizing not asking, normalizing like leaving it there and waiting on somebody else to introduce that,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
tough. It is
It
tough. I
is. It
I ain't even gonna lie,
is.
because
It is.
you again, you see beautiful people, and it's like, man, like y'all a young couple, y'all will
Mm-hmm.
be great parents, is what we're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But you may not know, man, we've been trying. We've been
Mm-hmm.
trying, and there's hurt behind the question that we're asking. So you're
Yeah.
right, man. We have to normalize waiting on the invitation, to talk about that, as
Yeah.
and consider that part of somebody's life as inappropriate as asking somebody, so how much money do you make?
Right.
You know,
Right. Yeah. Like
like,
it
at
off
least for right
limits.
now, as of the time of this recording, that's still pretty improper to ask somebody,
Right. Right.
um you wouldn't do that. You'd look at somebody like, excuse me, like, why you in my
What
pockets? Well,
about
it's the same
pockets?
thing. It
Right.
is the same thing. And I don't think we don't see it the same way. We see
Right.
it like, oh, well, I won't ask you about your money, but I'm gonna ask you about your fertility,
Right.
like, and that's not
Yeah.
that's not fair. And fertility ain't fair, you know?
Ain't fair. Period. Period.
So this is good. I
Uh
I have 2 pages of notes. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, professor. I'm in class.
You're
And there will
hilarious.
be a test. So
There will
I'm
be a pop
learning today.
quiz.
Yes.
A pop quiz coming up next week after y'all play the show. Yeah, that the last one was just, being considerate, when sharing announcements like a pregnancy, right? And once again, it's not to say don't do it or don't tell us or don't, I think just being considerate. Like for example, my best girlfriends from college, we were all going on a trip back in June. The four of us from college together, and before we got down there, she called me and said, "Hey, I want to let you know something before we all get together." And she told me that she was pregnant again. But
Mm,
the fact that she called me and told me before we all got together and hung out, and it was, it was going to happen, down there as a discussion or an announcement or whatever, and she did it privately, meant so much to me.
that's huge.
It was huge. And I was extremely excited for her, obviously. But it just meant I was kind of overcome with emotions that she, took that time out to make sure that I knew individually first. So that's one way to, like I said, share your announcement and still give me a chance to experience your joy, but like do it in a very considerate, private, one-on-one way. Like that was like textbook, you're a good friend, I love you.
That's
Like,
yeah. That's a great friend.
so
Yeah, that's a friend
yeah.
who sees
Yeah.
you, and who's selfless, to be honest.
Yeah. And someone who does know, you know, and at that time, yeah, I mean, she's pretty well aware of the things we've been going through. Very, I mean, well aware for sure. But she's known, you know, some of the hurt. So yeah, so I just appreciated that. So that was like, an example of how to be considerate and still share. Because the last thing I want again is to not be included, right? Like, I don't want to not be included in that. It's exciting. I'm excited for you. I'm very excited for you. But it's just the way that you go about doing it. So those were good. And then I'll give a resource. So I actually found there is a great resource called resolve.org. Found out they're actually the National Infertility Association. I had never heard of them until like last
Oh,
week.
wow.
Right.
Okay.
I'd be learning stuff. Okay. Every week I learn something new or find something else. And there's just so many good things on here. So they have an entire page dedicated for like friends and family. So it has helpful resources. It talks about infertility etiquette, kind of what we're talking about, like, how it's defined and like the things that they would, recommend you do or not do. Um, and then it also kind of gives you a breakdown of like myths and like facts about infertility. So many good things. But it's all based around this page particular is about support, for friends and family to be better with their loved ones. And so check them out, resolve.org, amazing resource. I'm sure I'll be using them more and more as I find, more things on here, but kind of goes into things like remembering people on Mother's Day and Father's Day, thinking about things like don't push adoption.
Mm,
People, and not saying it's not a great solution. I'm not ever going to say that. Adoption is amazing. But I think that's, as you mentioned, like people have like answers for everything. I feel like a lot of people that kind of like one of their first go-tos is like, why don't you adopt?
mm,
Hold on. Like one, that's a very, very deep personal decision to do that.
yeah.
And it takes a very special person to be able to love a child who they did not conceive on their own.
Right.
And like, once again, it's a personal decision. And once again, adoption isn't easy. Like, I think it's like, oh, just adopt a baby. Like, what? Like, do you know all that comes with that? And getting to that point. So, like, certain things like that I didn't even think about, but that was a really good point they had on here as well. But yeah, dope resource. Check them out, resolve.org. To go there. So obviously you and I have talked about a lot today on the show. So, since you did take some notes, what advice would you give to other supporters, that are friends and family, loved ones of those dealing with infertility or fertility struggles, period?
Man, oh, my advice, I guess my biggest takeaway is really being sensitive. Like if you're privy to know that your friend is going through infertility challenges, um and you got to help me even with the phraseology of that. Maybe before we go, you can help me. It feels weird. I feel like I stumble over even what to call it. So help me with that.
Yeah.
But friends who are experiencing infertility,
Hmm.
just being, it takes a heightened level of awareness.
Yeah.
And and selflessness, as I attributed, to your friend. I think it does take more thought and more action. But
Hmm.
if you really love your friend, then that's what that friendship requires.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you really rock with somebody like that, if you really care about them as much as you say, you will add all of these elements into your relationship with that person to
Hmm.
make that friendship the best friendship that it can be. If you
Yeah.
care about being a friend, then I need to be concerned about, okay, um if we do talk on Mother's Day, what is that conversation like?
Hmm.
If I know that I'm scheduled to talk to my friend, let me not have the baby crying in the background. Let me try to get my wife to keep the baby, or reschedule. Hey, this, and I ain't got to go into it. Hey, this is not a
Right.
good time for me. Can we reschedule? And I ain't got to
Hmm.
go into, hey, the kids are here and they're loud and da da. I ain't got to go into all of that. I just know this is not this could make for a trigger for my friend, so let me protect my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think that I'm trying to find the right words. I think it comes down, I think I'm here now. It really comes down to protecting your
Mm-hmm.
friend, and treating it like, not like you're powerless, but just treating it with fragility and care, and caution and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
consideration at the highest level. I think
Yeah.
that's what it kind of comes down to, is trying to be as considerate as I can be, and then even more than that.
I
you
like
know.
it. Yeah. And I liked when you said fragility, I was like, fragility with fertility. Yes.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. The protection part, I think once you are, like I said, there's some things that I think are universal, but for the things that are very specific, like once you are brought into that person's journey, whether it's a little bit or a lot, like
Right.
we've trusted you with a piece of ourselves that
Right.
has brought a lot of different emotions to our lives. And so obviously we care about you enough as well to share that and kind of, as you mentioned, the protection that we're entrusting you with a piece of our lives that probably a lot of people are not going to know the full story on.
Sure.
So, to have your protection and your friendship and your faith is a big part of our lives and our journey as well. So that's big.
Can I
That's
ask you
it.
this? I know
Yeah,
we're trying to wrap here, but
you good.
as a friend,
Hmm.
like, we're chopping it up. We talking about radio. We talking about music. We talking about, um, becoming media moguls, and all these great entrepreneurial efforts.
Hmm.
Right? Like, is it appropriate as a friend
Hmm.
to ask, like, how are you doing in
Hmm.
your infertility journey? Like, is that
Hmm.
like, once and
Yeah.
that's, like, is it appropriate to bring it up, and if so, when and
Hmm.
how? Like, is that disrespectful, or do you just kind of wait and let it come up, or is that a individual thing? Like, is that going to be different with everybody? Do you
Yeah,
I
I
don't
would say
know.
for me, and with also just with you and I, like since obviously we've talked about it and I let you in, um, I would not feel any kind of way if, we're just having a, normal conversation or a check in. Hey, hey, checking on you good. And you to ask. Like, I personally would, not feel any kind of way negatively if you did that, because like I said, it's part of the same way your kids are part of your day-to-day, like infertility is part of my day-to-day as well.
Mm,
So it's part of who I am. It's no longer all of who I am. I had to
sure.
get through that and not let it control every minute of my day anymore, but it's definitely a part of who I am. So yeah, I'd be okay if we're, catching up, talking, whatever, and you're like, so hey, how's it going?
Right.
And at that point, it's on me to, give what I want to give back. If it's a quick update, like, hey, it's still in motion, leave it at that. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Or
And
if
just
it's
leave
like,
it there. Look for the
hey,
clues. Like,
right. Like, how much do
short
I give you?
answer.
How
All
much
right. Keep it
energy?
moving.
Right. How much energy am I giving you that day? If
Right.
I'm like, man, let me tell you, like, I just kind of pour it out that day. It might happen, or I might
Yeah.
say, hey, thanks for asking. It's still going, but I'm doing okay today. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like cool. Moving on to the
Right.
next topic. What's
Right.
what's new?
Right. Because we want
Yeah.
to, on this side,
Hmm.
like, we don't want to ignore it, because,
Right.
like, I feel like that's not being a good friend.
I agree.
Like,
I agree.
if I had a health challenge that I told you about, that's
Yeah.
like, let's say I had a chronic illness, and
Yeah.
I got a chronic illness, and it's like, yo, you don't ever ask me, like, how I'm doing. Like, we talk about
Yeah.
everything else. It's
Everything
like, you
else.
don't ever ask me, like, I know this is an
Right.
elephant in the room, but, like, how's your
Yeah.
health? like how you doing. I ain't saying you got to bring it up every time we talk,
Right,
but
right,
just that check in, but that is sensitive on our side. I don't do that, and maybe it's because I'm a guy. I don't do that with my female friends.
right,
I honestly don't do it at all. If I do it with their husband, But even
right.
then, I really don't. It's only one out of the two couples that I talked about earlier that I bring that up with, And again,
Yeah.
that's probably just more proximity, of our relationship.
Hmm.
So, but I don't. It may be one out of 20 conversations that I'll bring it up, but
Right.
I don't want them to think that I'm just ignoring it or that I don't care. It's
Don't
like
care. Yeah.
I'm aware of it. I'm
Yeah.
just looking for the right time. I don't want to be offensive. I don't want to be a trigger. But I want you to know I'm here, and that I do
Hmm.
care and
Hmm.
do want to support you in whatever way support looks like. So that's what I value the most out of this conversation is like you are helping not just me, but thousands of people to navigate properly in a space that doesn't get talked about. And that's why I said this is a big podcast that you have. This is a movement. You're helping a lot of people right now. I know people are nodding their heads in agreement, and you're gonna help thousands of more. And you're gonna help thousands more people just like me and just like you to
Hmm.
have this conversation and to be better friends and support in the best way that we can. So I salute you. It
Hey.
takes a lot. you the level of braveness. I don't even know if that's a word. The
Bravery.
the bravery. That's it. That's it. I was like, I don't think I've ever heard braveness. Yes, it is bravery. The level of bravery that you have had to take your journey and to talk about it as you go, that's brave. So I salute you.
So let's get back into the Big Red Radio Show. Tell us about the show and how people can listen. And of course, give out your web and social info.
Yes, so the Big Red Radio Show is a weekend, nationally syndicated Christian hip hop, Christian pop, and rhythm and praise program. So artists like Lecrae, Andy Mineo, Corinne Hawthorne, Elevation Youth, Hillsong Young and Free. It's hip hop, pop, and R&B in an inspirational format. So,
Mhm.
um, so our goal is to just reach the young and the young at heart in a with inspiration in a way that they can relate to and rock
Mhm.
with.
Mhm.
I think every generation expresses inspiration in a different way. And I think this is the future of inspirational music. And so that's what we're doing. So we're on stations all over the country, Atlanta, Richmond, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, Florida, Greenville, South Carolina, and more. So you can always keep up with the show at bigredradioshow.com. That's BIGREDD radioshow.com. We're at Big Red Radio on all socials. So whatever your favorite social platform is, we're there. And follow the journey, man, because we're going places. But I promise you, don't say, well, I don't know nothing about that. I don't rock with that. I challenge you to tune in to a show and I guarantee you will like it. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. So that's who we are.
Yes. No, and I salute you from the beginning of when I met you and you were, I think considering at that point, stepping out on faith, right? And wanting to do this. This was it. You were going to start your own radio show. And when you first started, did you have one station or multiple when you first started?
I had 2 FM stations
Two.
and 4 internet stations at
And
the
how
time.
many do you have today?
We're on, as of today, we're on 19 FM
Woo!
stations and 6 internet stations.
Look, until
So
I get my sound effects, I'm clapping for you. Okay, that's where I need you at, Red. Can you give me some claps for editing?
yes,
Look, I need some
listen.
help. I need some production help. Look, that is fantastic.
Yes,
I know.
19 in a year. It
Yeah,
like
in a
just over a
year,
year. So it's
man.
exciting. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work,
Yeah,
but it's worth it. Like
yeah.
it's worth it. I see the people who I respect in syndication,
Mhm.
you know, they're having the big celebrations at 100 and at 200.
Mhm.
So those are my goals right now. You know,
Yeah.
I'm looking for that century mark, and we
Mhm.
gonna celebrate hard. I
Hard.
appreciate everyone, don't get me wrong, but that
Yeah.
100 is what makes me get up every day and grind
Mhm.
it out. You know,
Yeah.
and when we get to 100, I know that it's gonna take a lot more work to get to two, but that'll keep me pushing, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Woo.
that's where we are. But I'm excited. I'm grateful for everyone from the very first one to
Mhm.
number 25. I mean, you know, it's a blessing to be able to come into people's homes every week and to
Mhm.
have people hop into the text club, and you're getting texts during the show, and you're getting DMs and artists submitting music. It's humbling when
Yeah.
people attach themselves to the thing that you work hard on, because I'm doing it for them. I
Mhm.
mean, I enjoy it, but I don't
Yeah.
do the show for me. I'm doing
Right.
it for them, and so it's a blessing when people actually connect with it.
It's fun, it's uplifting. It's just it's a good show, y'all. So check out my radio brother, Big Red, on all social platforms and the web, and tune into one of his weekly shows across the globe. I'm proud of you. I'm also praying for you. And I'm just excited to be along the sidelines. I feel like it's like a marathon. I'm one of, thousands of people on the sidelines with a poster like "Go Red, go."
No,
But
it ain't.
I'm
Everybody ain't holding up
excited.
posters. That's the thing. That's the thing. Everybody ain't holding up posters. So I
Well, I got
appreciate
a
you.
poster.
Yes,
I got you with a poster.
yes. It's a lot of people on the
Yeah,
sidelines, but
I
everybody
hear
ain't
you.
cheering you on.
Hey,
So
I hear
those are
you.
actually fewer and far in between that than you could even imagine. So I
I hear
appreciate
you.
the cheers, and
Yeah.
you know, and that is a whole nother podcast. But I mean, what you do, you know, that's being a dope friend too. You know, it's like, yo, how's the show coming? So I salute you. I'm gonna keep putting it back on you, man.
You do.
I just I'm proud of you, man. I'm
Oh
proud of
man, I
you. You're doing
appreciate it.
big things, and you're a great friend. So
I appreciate it.
I'm just glad to
Well,
be a part of your journey.
hey, I thank you for receiving me as a friend, and for receiving the journey. So yeah, appreciate it. Check them out. And that does it for us on today's episode of Fertility Ain't Fair. I hope this episode was good for both sides of the table, right? So good for our community, as we are the ones, going through our struggles and our different journeys, but also for the ones who really do care about us, love us, and want to support us in the best way possible. I hope that this open dialogue that me and Red has encourages you to, open up possibly to some of your loved ones, friends, families, and others who, may need to be brought a little bit more into your journey, or introduced to your journey, so that they are able to better support you and be there for you. As always, I advocate for you all to speak up, to tell someone how you want them to show up for you when it comes to your fertility journey, and your process. Make sure that you are taking the steps that you need to remain healthy, and faithful as you move forward. And so continue to open up the dialogue, right? Continue to normalize these conversations and be confident and okay with giving friends and family the do's and don'ts, when it comes to this, because they really may have no idea. And so it's up to us to help educate those who we care about and who care about us as we move through our different journeys and experiences. So thank you guys for joining another episode of Fertility Ain't Fair. Shout out again to my big homie in the radio business, and also in the friend business, Big Red. Again, check him out on all social media at Big Red Radio. That's red with 2 D's. And make sure you check out his show if you just want some uplifting, feel good, good radio programming in your life. Check out the Big Red Radio Show. Make sure to also check us out on social media at Fertility Ain't Fair and our website, fertilityaintfair.com. Until next time, I am your friend in fertility. Stay hopeful.